everyone! It's me, Blea, and for today's video, I am going to share to you my 10 reflections for the prelim. The 5 topics here are from the Torrentera, and the 4 topics are from the Philippine History Sourcebook, and the 1 topic is from the supplemental material from Proof R.A. Dalagan. So in my reflection paper, I will be using 3 modes of reflection. First is the mirroring. So in mirroring, there are 4 preliminary questions to be answered. First is what is being discussed. Second, is there anything that you can see in yourself? Third, is it present or absent? And fourth, what do you feel and why? And the second mode of reflection that I will be using is the microscope. So get one word or words or phrase or sentence that struck you or affected you, and what are its societal or sectoral implication and why. And the third mode of reflection that I will be using is the telescoping. So cite existing societal, it's either local, national, or international issues, then connect that issue to the topics being discussed or read. How these issues affected you as a student, as a youth, why or why not. So now, let's start. So the first topic is from the Torrentera, an introduction to Philippine historiography. The mode of reflection that I will be using in this topic is mirroring. So in mirroring, the first question is what is being discussed. So it was discussed in this document that history deals with the study of past events presented in chronological order and often with explanation. The other defines it as history. They undertake historical research to come up with a meaningful and organized reconstruction of the past, called history. History and historiography define a people, but more importantly, a people create in the figurative and literal sense. They change with and through times and context in accordance with the changes of the people who create them. So, is there anything that you can see in yourself? So I can see in myself that with history, I am not only learning how we came to be, but also developing the ability to study and avoid mistakes and create better paths for our societies. Is it present or absent? It is present as it allows us to gain valuable perspective on the problems of our modern society. So how do you feel, or what do you feel and why? I felt happy because through history, I was given the chance to learn more about and discover important events from the past. History serves as a guide for every Filipino's present and future plans. As a student of history, I always held the belief that history is a discipline. It's not just about memorization of places, people, and dates. It's about sources. The use of sources changed my view as a student. I began to understand that such generalizations represent an interpretation of past events. I am aware that the text has a point of view that does not make it incorrect, but that does render it subject to question. It informs me about alternative methods of finding information that do not rely on technology. I can't deny the fact that sometimes I get bored in terms of history, but I realize that history is very important to me as a student because by knowing about history, I've learned a lot of things that I can use in my future study. The second topic is the history of the Philippine Islands. The mode of reflection that I will be using in this topic is telescoping. The excerpt discussed the Philippine Island and its indigenous people, antiquity, customs, government, cultures, and beliefs. The Luzon consisted of black men and women. They were described as people with low capacity and having woolly hair, but they were strong and robust. It is about the lives of the people in Luzon who have no permanent house or shelter, their life and their own government which are still present in today's society. It serves as a guide of every Filipino's present and future plans and strengthens our sense of nationalism. So the issue of the discrimination of indigenous people in Mindanao can relate to the topic being discussed in this article focusing on black people, wherein they face belittlement and degradation. And as a student and a youth, it affected me a lot as it affected our lack of unity and respect for one another. And it saddened me that it is our fellow Filipinos who discriminate against and insult them. Our third topic is all about the Manunggul Jar. So in this article, It was discussed that the Manunggul jar was one of the numerous jars found in a cave believed to be a burial site. It is part of the archaeologically significant Tabon Cave Complex in Lipuon Point, Quezon, Palawan, and was discovered in March 1964 by Victor Dicalan, Hans Kadsten, and several volunteer workers from United States Peace Corps. It exemplifies the Filipino people's creativity and sense of artistry. It was created by an ingenious artist who is skilled in making paths. It was also regarded as an artifact that reflected the role of water sources as means of travel and contact during the period of the ancestors. I can see this in myself because it is very personal to me, as I believe in such a life after death, as it has been part of our tradition as Ikalagan tribe. It is present because there are still a lot of Filipinos who believe in these practices. I felt happy and proud at the same time because it depicted our Filipino values of respect for one's souls, compassion, and faith. The next topic is the Laguna Copper Plate Inscription. It was discussed that the Laguna Copper Plate Inscription is a primary historical source written in several languages. The Copper Plate Inscription provided an evidence that the Philippines had been settled for longer than was initially thought, and that the people had contact with other cultures as evidenced by several languages used in the inscription. The copper plate was accidentally discovered by a man who was dredging sand in the Lumbang River in Laguna. Dredging is part of a quarrying activity for the purpose of accumulating sand and gravel for construction purposes. It adds to the evidence, along with other artifacts and fossils discovered, that the Philippines' early inhabitants and their own civilization before being colonized by the Spaniards. I can see in myself the greatest significance of this in our history, as it served as a new discovery and a new learning for me. It is still present today because the Laguna Copper Plate remains a part of the permanent exhibit of the National Museum of Anthropology. As a Filipino, I felt amazed to know that we Filipinos had our very own cultures long before the Spaniards came, and proud as it has been part of our ancient past, a past much earlier than Filipinos did. Our next topic is the duties of the Katipunan of the Sons of the People. In 1896, the duties of the Katipunan of the Sons of the People was written by Andres Bonifacio and were strictly followed by the members of the organization. It was written that the list of duties and responsibilities was to be followed by every Filipino, especially those who were former members of the Katipunan. This also encouraged them to firmly stand for what they were fighting for, and so these codes of conduct written by the former revolutionary leaders have truly shaped the characteristics and attitudes of the Filipino people. It spoke of honor, charity, and self-sacrifice, but wanted to punish the traitors and disobedient. So from this written work of Bonifacio, I can see in myself the hardship, sacrifice, struggle, resistance, and overcoming massive odds that they brought to our country while putting their lives on the line. It was present because there are still Filipinos who are willing to sacrifice their lives for the sake of our country. People who are strong and brave enough to fight just to achieve our freedom. I felt proud as a Filipino and also honored because these people helped shape our nation because of their bravery in fighting for our country's freedom. Now, let's move on to our sixth topic, the Kalantiaw, the code that never was. So the mode of reflection that I will be using in this topic is the telescoping. The Code of Kalantiaw was a legendary legal code in the epic story of Maragtas. It is said to have been written in 1433 by Datu Kalantiaw, a chief on the island of Negros in the Philippines. So the code was criticized for its lack of detail and its depiction of a patriarchal society. The issue adds to the confusion regarding the historical text's authenticity. The issue related to the article's authenticity can be found in today's society, especially on social media, wherein a lot of false information was posted without criticizing its legitimacy. As a student and a youth, I felt sad because for decades, people have accepted this document as fact. It has been taught in the schools and universities as a legitimate historical archive, and it has unfortunately helped shape the way we view our identity, but it only serves as a hook. So moving on to the next topic, the customs of the Tagalogs. I will be using a mirroring. The custom of the Tagalogs discuss how early Filipinos gained mastery over their surroundings and told us about excerpts from the Spaniard studies about the life of Tagalogs, the language, culture, and society. It is one of the most important primary sources of the Philippine history because it tackles the everyday lives of the ancient Filipinos, their system of government, social status, customs, traditions, and beliefs. Tagalog customs allow researchers to delve into the lives of people in Central Luzon in the past. So this document is important for determining how the Spaniards will govern the Filipinos during the Spanish era. I can see something in this that I can see in myself today, such as the way of life and the way of government, because I am part of a Kalagan tribe and we are ruled by our dato, and the dato serves as a leader to us. He is the one who guides us in our everyday living, and it is present in the sense that the practices of the past are still being practiced today. I felt happy because it helped me understand how events in the past made things the way they are today. Moving on to our next topic, our aims in La Solidaridad. The article discussed the goals of a propaganda movement and how a band of unity was formed among Filipino liberals and ilustrados. La Solidaridad, regarded as a fundamental right of nation deprived of democracy and of its people, banded together to expose the injustices inflicted on Filipinos by Spain's colonial regime. In a nation whose people are imbued with patriotism, they must go out and speak for the inarticulate and slave. Thus, a publication was used to call for social and political reform. The aims of the propaganda were to fight for suppression, oppose dominance, and agree on political and social progress. I can see the greatest impact of this article on myself because I am a Filipino citizen who also aims for freedom and peace, not just for our country but for myself to be free from all the doubts and fears I have. Up until today, the article is still present because of its importance in the Philippines and the impact and inspiration that it has brought. As a young Filipino, I felt proud as it is one of the reasons why we have achieved the freedom that we have right now. Now, our next topic is ang pag-ibig sa tinubuang bayan. I will be using mirroring again. The poem entitled Ang Pag-ibig sa Tinubuang Bayan was written by Andres Bonifacio. It is one of the contents of the first ever issue of Kalayaan, the newspaper of the Katipunan, on March 1896. In this poem, it was discussed that it was written as an exhortation to urge his fellow Filipino citizens to fight for Philippine independence and to join the crusade. He is regarded as the father of the Philippine Revolution because he led the Philippine revolutionaries in asserting and defending the Filipinos' right to liberty from Spanish rule. Although Bonifacio is much better known as a fighter than a writer, he was able to prove his versatility in writing through this poem. The poem is all about being proud of one's nationality and country. I can see it in myself because it clearly relates to me because as a Filipino, I am very proud of my country. And I am also willing to fight for it in my own little way. It is present because the love for the country can still be seen in every Filipino today. The way we appreciate our country and how we display our patriotic pride and our sense of nationalism. It makes me feel proud and inspired as a Filipino to have a hero like Andres Bonifacio, who fought and battled to save his countrymen. He is truly an inspiration to all Filipinos, especially to me as a youth. He inspired me to show my love for my country and never stop fighting for it. Now, our last topic is from the supplemental material from our instructor, Prof. R.A. Dalagan. So it is post-truth, cancel culture, and silencing in history. The mode of reflection that I am going to use is the microscoping. From this topic, the word that struck me or affected me is the word cancel culture. It is a way of behaving in a society or group, especially on social media, in which it is common to completely reject and stop supporting someone because they have said or done something that offends you. Its societal implication is that it has infiltrated the very fabric of our society so much that some people are afraid to learn, engage, and speak up. It has become a negative trend in society through the influence of social media. As it is most notably seen on social media platforms, the temptation to jump on the bandwagon of group shaming has become much easier. After all, someone who participates in this culture can do it through the click of their keyboard or the tap of their phone. This leads to the question of whether pointing out the flaws of others is wrong if done behind the mask of social media.